So during my PhD and my master's training, I had focused on spinal health, and I have a particular interest in back pain because we spend 3/4 of our time in a work environment. And most of the time when we carry out our day-to-day duties, we do them in awkward postures. The movements that we do are repetitive, and often we do not realize that we are subjected to cumulative trauma, which ends up in back pain or pain in other regions, but most of the time it is back pain. I had particular interest in the nursing profession because even though healthcare professionals look after people with back pain, they too themselves suffer from back pain. And then you find that the nursing population, when we go to the hospital environment, they are the ones who are on top of the list. And that is because of the activities that they do, lifting patients, shifting patients from one point to another. So most of the time you find that they are subjected to, or they experience a lot of back pain. So everybody is entitled to having a pain-free life and quality of life and even emotional balance in life. So you agree with me that pain can offset you emotionally. So for my PhD, I was looking at not being reactive to pain, but being proactive. So what can they do in response or to alleviate or to minimize the effects of back pain? I did that in particular, or I took particular interest in that because when it comes to our setting, we find that there is very limited things that we can do in changing the work setting, for instance, or change of jobs, because we have limited opportunities, and the buildings that we are operating from were built, most of them before the independence era. And when it comes to ergonomic changes, there is very little that can be done. So you find that as healthcare personnel, the reaction has been taking painkillers. So painkillers, as we may know, have an effect like where one gets used to painkillers and they do not continue to work in the same way as they did at the first instance. So we are looking at other measures. So it is the proactive part that we are trying to promote in the research that I'm doing. So what else can they do apart from taking pain medication? Can they exercise? Can we encourage exercise? Can we encourage other activities to alleviate the low back pain? I have taken the same interest again, but away from the work environment. For my postdoc, I have concentrated, or I'm trying to concentrate on children and adolescents. The understanding is that when we start the proactive activities when people or when children, with children in school, when they are children and when they are adolescents, they will grow up with that. And when they get to the work environment, whether they are going to be nurses or any other occupation that they are going to engage in, it will be easy for them to apply what they have learned whilst growing up in schools when they are in the work environment. So in a nutshell, I would say probably for now, the understanding is that in the school arena becomes a good environment to help change habits or improve habits, and even to introduce knowledge which one can grow up with and practice when they are adults. So to come up with the interventions and promote the interventions, what I have been doing lately is conduct systematic reviews where where we are identifying what interventions have been conducted in schools among children and adolescents elsewhere. So we have, at this stage, we have synthesized the data. We have identified the interventions that have been conducted in schools. Most of them are educational, physical activity, and there's been some adjustments in furniture, the furniture that the students are using whilst in school. So then we have also looked at the psychometric properties and outcome measures that have been used in these interventions. The idea is to see what has worked well and what is applicable to our setting. So this is what we are currently doing now. So once we finish that, then we'll be able to move to the next stage where we design and apply what we have discovered in our research into our scenario, the South African schools. Yeah, so in tackling back pain, I know earlier I talked about making changes in the environment. We say environmental changes where we have to make buildings, looking at our environment and funding that may not be feasible. We anticipate that that may not be feasible. But I also mentioned earlier that in the systematic reviews that we have done, we have taken notice that educational interventions have been very helpful in changing knowledge and in changing the behaviors of individuals who have taken part in the various research activities. I feel educational interventions looking at our situation now may be very helpful, and it is something that will possibly venture in. The other aspect we have found out in research is the aspect of physical activity, which may also be very feasible for us in our environment if we have the funding and the support that we need. Our work environment, the changes start with the space that we occupy. Is it adequate enough to occupy for instance, the desks, the workstations? So when it comes to the workstations themselves, are they fitting to the needs of the individuals that are using the desks, the workstations? So most of the time, it is one size fits all. So what we would like to see is a standardized. So if my body weight is the way it is, or my my belt up is the way it is, I would want a desk which would go with, which would fit everything about me. So, but that is, for now, it is a dream. So we may have to focus on the aspects of exercise, physical activity, the aspects of knowledge to see, even when I'm using a standard desk, how do I adjust myself to use and to fit what I've been given to use at that particular time. So I think that's the direction that we are taking. Yeah. The region that we are in, the Southern Hemisphere, and probably the region where I come from, I think there are a lot of economic hardships, and then people have to do so much more to meet ends meet. So, like, I know there are people who do in the hospital and in other sectors who have to carry out like 2 jobs or 3 jobs to make ends meet. So that has contributed to the high prevalence of back pain in Africa, especially. I think it would be of interest to let you know that in Africa, we have the highest prevalence of low back pain, and in research that has been conducted by the WHO, the projections are that by the year 2030, the prevalence we have now will even be higher. So most of the time it has to do with the economic setup that we are experiencing right now. So the other aspect is if I have back pain, do I take sick leave and keep away from work? You must realize that the moment one takes sick leave, which will be about 3 or 5 days, in an environment where they have limited opportunities for employment, it means the other people that remain to work in your place also undergo more stress because you have left a gap. So when we are proactive, so we manage ourselves, or we manage our workspaces by saying, can I do something lighter in the workplace than me taking sick leave and staying at home? Because when you're doing something lighter, you are taking off the pressure from your individuals, your colleagues or individuals who should have covered for you when you had taken sick leave. So there is work that you are going to do. You will maintain productivity. You will relieve your colleagues of the pressure, which you were not going to had you taken sick leave. And then when it comes to economic productivity or company productivity, that goes on. Would like policymakers to support us in this vision. So even when they are doing the planning, it is information that they should take into consideration and act upon. It's one thing to hear about it, and it's another thing to act upon. So most of the time, people have heard, but they have not acted upon the information that they have heard. So in future, we would love to see a situation where information is appreciated and steps are taken to make the improvement that is advocated for.